How are you, ladies and gentlemen? It is a beautiful day, especially after the Bulls season opener win last night, and although it is Thursday, I do my Bulls hot takes video every Wednesday. Well, between the interview with KC and the post-game video yesterday, I thought those needed to go first thing, so we're doing the hot takes video on a Thursday this week. So if you're new to the channel, every Wednesday, normally, I feature your Bulls hot takes and my reaction to them, so feel free to leave your hot takes in the comments below, and I just might include it in next week's video. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. So, let's kick us off with our first hot take, which comes to us from Random Blanks. Acme will trade Coby White and Derrick Jones Jr. for DeAndre Ayton. Now, I fully expected there would be DeAndre Ayton trade hot takes after the Suns failed to reach an agreement on a contract extension to his rookie deal, and there were other takes that were similar to this one, but here's the thing. Despite Phoenix being cheap, I think ultimately they will be able to reach an agreement with Ayton for a max extension next offseason. I think really they just want to see how he does to determine if in fact he is worth a max contract, and that this past season wasn't just an outlier for him. That being said though, if a rift exists between Ayton and the front office to the point where the relationship is damaging or beyond repair because the front office wouldn't give Ayton the max, then yes, they could look to make a trade for him to get some value in return rather than having him walk when he becomes a free agent, even though he'll be restricted. But yeah, Coby White and Derrick Jones Jr., that isn't going to be anywhere close to enough for someone like Ayton, because as cheap as the Suns are, and maybe they don't believe Ayton is a max level player, they're still going to want max level value in return for him. And let's say in some crazy world the Suns did this trade, the Bulls don't have the money to pay Ayton, because it's not like Ayton isn't just going to want his max extension once he's on the Bulls. He's still going to want that to whatever team he gets traded to. And the Bulls don't have the cap space to make that work with all the other contracts they have, and the fact that they need to prioritize giving Lavine a max contract. Next up, we've got BTN Storm. The Bulls should trade Coby White and Troy Brown Jr. for an athletic, undersized center, is the only piece we are missing. Miles Turner should be the target. Man, everyone is wanting to make trades, and we barely started the season just yesterday. Well, I do agree that some depth in the front court would be nice, and I actually think Miles Turner would be an incredible fit on the Bulls, but I don't think he would be willing to come off the bench, which he likely would have to unless the Bulls want to bench Patrick Williams, which I don't think makes sense given they're trying to develop him as much as possible. I also think a guy like Marvin Bagley would make sense. Again, you know, these aren't technically centers, but they are guys that can play the five. They're athletic and fill a need in giving the Bulls some depth. What I like about Turner is that he's one of the best rim protectors in the league. He's finished #1 in the league in blocks per game last season by a wide margin. I think for someone like Marvin Bagley, who's still very young, has upside potential, and isn't happy where he's at in Sacramento, is also a good opportunity for the Bulls to take advantage in buying low on Bagley. And again, it still gives the Bulls some more depth. All of that being said though, as much as people keep talking about trading Coby White, I still think it makes sense to hold on to him at least for this upcoming season and see how he does with this new lineup. I mean, it's easy to say that Coby is the odd man out in this lineup because of the loaded backcourt now that the Bulls added Lonzo, Caruso, and Ayo, but Coby is still very young, hasn't entered his prime, and he's a great scorer. We just need to see more consistency from him. Next up, we've got Radar. Bulls should pursue Mo Bamba this season for his rim protection and to add big man depth if the Magic decide to start Wendell Carter Jr. over him. Well, Wendell Carter Jr. absolutely will start over Mo Bamba. In fact, I think you already saw that last night, and there's a reason why they gave Wendell that contract extension over Mo Bamba, who was actually selected one spot ahead of Wendell in the 2018 draft, oddly enough. I mean, I think the writing is on the wall for Mo Bamba, that the Magic don't really see him as a long-term fit and part of their future. He really hasn't panned out being that highly sought-after prospect I think most people expected of him. And again, the value and opportunity in bringing in a guy like Mo Bamba for the Bulls, again, as I said in the last take, is to give Bulls some front court depth. But again, the only way you can pursue him is through a trade, and there really aren't that many players on this team that I would really give up for someone like Bamba, as I do have a hard time seeing the upside potential with him, even though he is still young. I mean, I would maybe trade him for Matt Thomas and have him be the last man on the roster, but outside of that, I really can't say there's anyone on the Bulls roster I would trade Bamba for. Next, we've got Sheesh No. Lonzo Ball makes an all-defensive first team. A bit of a stretch, especially considering Lonzo didn't even receive a single vote for all second team defense last season. Granted, a different situation. I do think Lonzo's defense will shine more than it ever has on this Bulls roster and under Billy Donovan's system, but no, he isn't going to get all defensive first team honors. I could see him getting some votes and maybe getting all defensive second team, but first team, you're talking about being able to be in company of guys like Rudy Gobert, Ben Simmons, Giannis, Draymond Green, Drew Holiday. This is some strong company that I just don't think Lonzo Ball is there quite yet defensively. Next, we've got pre-LK. Alize Johnson will be top 10 in rebounds. Yeah, no, look, I love Alize. He's slowly becoming one of my favorite Bulls players, but he's not going to be getting anywhere near the kind of minutes that would even enable him to come close to finishing top 10 in rebounds in the league. You're talking about him needing to average over 10 rebounds a game on 15 to 20 minutes per game played max. That's even if he's in Billy Donovan's rotation, so there's no way that this is happening. Next, we've got Balling with Brooklyn. Lonzo will win the Most Improved Player award. So I've actually seen some larger media analysts predict that Lonzo will in fact win Most Improved Player. I believe it was Bobby Marks who was predicting that. I know our own Sam Smith of Bulls.com is high on Lonzo potentially winning that award. And Lonzo is in a position, being on a team that is going to rely heavily on him for both his playmaking and his defense. And, he's really in a prime to break out and potentially win this award. I do think there are going to be other guys who will likely beat it out for Lonzo and getting that award. Guys like Jaren Jackson Jr., who I think is due for a breakout year now that he is fully healthy and has looked great in the preseason game that we saw him in. A guy like Michael Porter Jr. could certainly win the award. Tyrese Maxey, OG Anunoby could be another candidate that could win it. So I definitely think Lonzo will be in that conversation for Most Improved Player, and he could potentially win it, especially if the Bulls have a breakout year, which let's hope they do. So it isn't too much of a hot take in my view, because I do think a lot of people are expecting for Lonzo to have some sort of breakout season. Now, this next one isn't a hot take, but when the person asked this, I thought this may end up having to be a new series that I do on the channel. Maybe not every week, but on some sort of cadence. Let me know if you guys want to see something like this, but it's a would you rather question. And in this instance, we have Ben Kite asking, would you rather Boylen as a coach or Valentine back getting 15 minutes per game? Now, I'll share my answer, but I'm also curious what you guys would rather have in this scenario. Let me know in the comments. But Ben, my man, this is really tough just because, I couldn't stand Valentine. Everyone knows that. But I have to go with having Denzel back for 15 minutes per game over Jim Boylen as the head coach, because at least you would only have to worry about Denzel for a portion of the game, whereas Jim Boylen would be running things for the entire game. And of course, the players didn't respect him as a coach, and the whole thing would just be a disaster if they were to bring Jim Boylen back. I like the question though, and like I said, let me know in the comments, guys, if you want me to continue a series of this where I answer your would you rather questions. Next, we've got David. The Bulls defense will be better than their offense. Ooh, that's pretty hot, my guy. You guys know I have been talking about this for a while now, that the Bulls are going to be surprisingly good on defense, and I think they'll ultimately finish top 10 in the league in defense. That being said, I don't think they're going to be an elite defensive team, whereas on offense, I actually think that they will be and likely finish top 5 in offense when all is said and done with the firepower they have in their starting lineup. So it's really hard for me to imagine this team being better on defense than they are on offense, because I do still think they are going to be elements of their game where they will struggle on defense, particularly as it relates to rim protection and defense in the paint. All that being said, though, the Bulls look better on defense last night than they did on offense, so we'll see how things pan out. Next, we've got Mr. Duck 3. Despite the Bulls being a top 4 seed and Lavine being the leading scorer, the media will disrespect him, as they will say that he needed a team of all-stars to do well or something similar. You're probably right. I could easily see that happening, but also it's kind of like, who cares? For me personally, I've been so fed up with the national media recently and their disrespect for the Bulls and lazy analysis that even if the Bulls do well and Lavine balls out and they claim, well, he just needed help, well, I just don't really care. As long as the Bulls are doing well, they're fun to watch and they're being competitive, that's all that matters to me. It's not like the media is going to make the Bulls any worse or better because of what they say or publish, especially as it relates to Zach Lavine. But yes, I'm sure some sort of narrative will be spun up around Lavine not being as good as people think he is, because in the end, he needed help to actually finally start winning and couldn't carry a team on his own. Well, newsflash, that applies to virtually every star player. You could even say that about Michael Jordan. Let's do one more, and this one comes to us from Joseph Cruz. The Bulls are going to be so dominant / entertaining, they end up playing on Christmas Day. Well, I'm pretty sure they can't alter the Christmas Day schedule once it's been set. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but I don't believe that has ever happened. I was surprised that with all the moves the Bulls did make in the offseason that they didn't get a Christmas Day game for this season, and I do agree that it was an oversight by the league because the Bulls are going to be one of the more entertaining teams in the NBA with their high-octane offense and highlight reel dunkers, especially more entertaining than a team like the Jazz or the Knicks who will be playing on Christmas. Anyway, guys, I will end it there for this week. Don't forget to submit your hot takes in the comments below to be featured in next week's video. Also, don't forget the Bulls will be taking on the Pelicans tomorrow night for the Bulls home opener. I cannot wait to see what the energy is going to look like at the United Center. As always, I'll have a live group chat for the game here on the channel as well as in the Discord. The link to the Discord can be found in the description. And of course, as always, be sure to subscribe as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.